Professor Klix adjusted his breathing apparatus with 3 of his tentacles while reviewing the day's lesson plan. The Galactic Academy's xenobiology course was supposed to be straightforward. Each species would present their domesticated companions to demonstrate interspecies bonding patterns. Simple, educational, harmless. "Today, class," Klix announced to his diverse assembly of students, "we will observe the fascinating relationships between sapient beings and their chosen animal companions." The classroom buzzed with excitement. 37 different species had gathered in the Academy's largest lecture hall, each student accompanied by their respective pets. The sight was nothing short of adorable. Zara from Proxima B had brought her singing crystal moths, their wings creating beautiful harmonies as they fluttered around her blue-tinted head. The sound was so soothing that several students had already started to doze off. Blip, the young Andromedan, proudly displayed his collection of miniature rainbow slugs that changed colors based on his emotional state. Currently, they were a pleasant shade of pink, indicating contentment. Even Torx, known for his aggressive nature, had surprised everyone by bringing a tiny, furry creature called a snugglebump that purred whenever touched. The little beast was currently wrapped around Torx's thick neck like a living scarf, emitting the most ridiculous squeaking sounds. Absolutely precious, Klix thought to himself. What could possibly go wrong? The presentations had been going smoothly for 2 hours. Each species explained their bonding rituals, feeding habits, and the emotional benefits of pet ownership. Klix was particularly impressed by the Crystallian students' explanation of how their pet rocks communicated through subtle vibrations. And now, Klix consulted his datapad. "We have our human representative, Marcus Thompson." The professor looked around the classroom. Where was the human? He'd been present during roll call, sitting in the back corner with that characteristic human smile that never failed to make other species slightly uncomfortable. "Marcus Thompson?" Klix called again. The classroom door suddenly burst open with such force that the metal hinges groaned in protest. Every head, tentacle, and sensory organ in the room turned toward the entrance. Marcus Thompson stood in the doorway, grinning like he just won the Galactic lottery. Behind him, connected by what appeared to be a simple leather strap, was something that made every survival instinct in the room start screaming. "Sorry I'm late, Professor," Marcus announced cheerfully. "Rex here needed his morning walk, and you know how it is." The creature that Marcus casually referred to as Rex stood approximately 2 meters tall at the shoulder. Its muscular frame was covered in short, golden fur marked with darker spots. But it was the head that truly captured everyone's attention. Massive jaws, lined with teeth that could easily crush bone. Eyes that tracked movement with predatory precision. A low rumble emanated from its throat that vibrated through the floor and into everyone's bones. Klix 3 hearts stopped beating simultaneously. "Thompson," the professor managed to whisper. "What? What is that thing?" Marcus looked down at his companion with obvious affection. "Oh, this is Rex. He's a dog. Well, technically he's a Canis Rex Maximus, but I just call him my good boy. Aren't you, Rex?" The massive predator's tail wagged once, creating a wind current that rustled papers across the room. The class sat in stunned silence. Several students had instinctively activated their personal defense shields. Zara's crystal moths had stopped singing and were now huddled together, trembling. Blip's rainbow slugs had turned a deep shade of purple, indicating absolute terror. A dog?" Klix stammered. "Thompson, that is clearly an apex predator. Look at those teeth, those claws, the way it moves." Marcus scratched behind Rex's ear, which was roughly the size of Klix head. "Yeah. He's got some big chompers, don't you, buddy? But he's super friendly. Watch this." Before anyone could protest, Marcus pointed to Torx, the most intimidating student in the class. "Rex, go make friends." The massive predator padded over to Torx with surprising grace. Torx, who had faced down space pirates without flinching, pressed himself against his chair as Rex approached. Rex sat down in front of Torx and offered his paw. He wants to shake hands, Marcus explained helpfully. It's a human bonding ritual we taught our dogs. Torx stared at the paw, which was roughly the size of his torso. The claws were retracted, but everyone could see they were there, waiting. After what felt like an eternity, Torx slowly extended one of his own appendages and touched Rex's paw. Rex's tail wagged more enthusiastically, and he made a sound that could only be described as pleased rumbling. See? Marcus beamed. He likes you. Rex is great with kids and other species. Very social. Professor Klix 9 found his voice. Thompson, surely you understand that this creature poses a significant safety risk. Your species' definition of pet appears to be somewhat different from the Galactic standard. Marcus looked genuinely confused. Different how? Rex is perfectly house-trained. He knows basic commands like sit, stay, don't eat the mailman. He's even therapy certified back on Earth. Therapy certified, squeaked Pip, a small rodent-like creature from the Vega system. What kind of therapy involves an apex predator? Oh, all kinds, Marcus said enthusiastically. Rex visits hospitals, schools, retirement homes. Turns out that petting a big dog releases endorphins and reduces stress hormones. Amazing what a little animal therapy can do. The irony was not lost on the class that Rex's presence was currently causing stress levels to spike throughout the room. But surely, Klix 9 pressed, your species has smaller, less threatening companions? Perhaps something that doesn't look like it evolved specifically to hunt and kill. Marcus considered this. Well, sure, we have cats too, but I thought Rex would be more impressive for the presentation. Plus, he's better behaved than most cats. Cats, Zara whispered. Your species has more of these creatures? Oh yeah, tons of different pets. Dogs, cats, birds, fish, reptiles, rodents. Some humans even keep spiders and snakes. The collective shudder that ran through the classroom was almost audible. Torx, who was still cautiously interacting with Rex, spoke up. This creature, it is truly domesticated. It will not attack if threatened. Well, Rex might defend himself if someone tried to hurt him, Marcus admitted. But he's been bred for thousands of years to be companion animals. His bite is worse than his bark, but honestly, his bark is pretty impressive too. As if on cue, Rex tilted his head back and let out a single bark. The sound was deafening. Several students dove under their desks. Pip fainted outright. The windows vibrated, and somewhere in the distance, an alarm started going off. Oops, Marcus said sheepishly. Inside voice, Rex. Rex looked appropriately chastened and settled down next to Torx's desk with a sigh that ruffled papers 3 rows away. Professor Klix 9 was frantically consulting his emergency protocols datapad. Thompson, I'm not sure our insurance covers apex predator incidents. Rex isn't going to incident anyone, Marcus protested. He's a good boy. Show them your tricks, Rex. Rex immediately perked up. At Marcus's gesture, the massive creature performed a series of actions that were both impressive and terrifying. He rolled over, displaying a stomach that could easily fit a small student. He played dead, which was disturbingly convincing given his size. He even balanced a treat on his nose before flipping it into the air and catching it with jaws that snapped shut with an audible clank. Despite their terror, the students found themselves oddly mesmerized. There was something almost cute about watching such a powerful predator perform these simple tricks with obvious enthusiasm. The bonding between our species and dogs goes back over 15,000 years, Marcus explained, while Rex demonstrated his ability to sit, stay, and come when called. They were originally wolves that figured out humans were pretty good at providing regular meals and warm places to sleep. In exchange, they helped us hunt and protected our settlements. You domesticated wolves? Klix 9's voice had risen to a pitch that his species only used in extreme distress. You took apex predators and invited them into your homes. Well, technically they domesticated us a little bit too, Marcus admitted. Studies show that humans and dogs evolved together. We changed their behavior, and they changed ours. Pretty neat partnership. Really. Zara had recovered enough to ask, but how do you ensure they won't revert to their predatory nature? Marcus looked at Rex, who was currently lying on his back, hoping someone would rub his stomach. Training, socialization, selective breeding, and lots of love. Most dogs would rather play fetch than hunt, though Rex here still has some pretty strong instincts. What kind of instincts? Torx asked, though he was now tentatively scratching Rex behind the ears. Well, he's protective of family members. He likes to chase things that run, and he has this thing about the mailman that we're still working on. But mostly he just wants belly rubs and treats. As if to prove the point, Rex rolled onto his side and gazed hopefully at the class with eyes that, despite their predatory design, somehow managed to convey pure devotion. This is highly irregular, Klix 9 muttered, but even he seemed to be softening slightly. Your species' approach to interspecies relationships is unprecedented. Yeah, we're pretty weird that way. Marcus agreed cheerfully. We tend to adopt things other species would run from. Cats that are basically tiny tigers, birds that can bite through bone, fish that could poison us. My neighbor back home has a pet snake that could swallow him whole if it wanted to. The collective gasp from the classroom was so loud it triggered the building's ventilation system. But that's the beautiful thing about the human-pet relationship, Marcus continued, warming to his subject. It's not based on fear or dominance. It's based on mutual affection and trust. Rex trusts me to feed him, walk him, and scratch that spot behind his ears that he can't reach. I trust him to be my companion and protect my family if needed. Protect your family? Pip had recovered consciousness and was peering over his desk. From what? Marcus's expression grew serious for the first time since entering the classroom. From anything that might threaten them. Rex might look scary to you, but to a human child, he's a friend who will never let harm come to them. There are thousands of stories of dogs like Rex who have saved human lives, sometimes at the cost of their own. The classroom fell silent as this sank in. The creature that had terrified them was, in the human perspective, a guardian and protector. This is... Klix 9 struggled for words. This is either the most foolish or the most courageous approach to animal companionship I have ever encountered. Probably a bit of both, Marcus admitted. But that's humans for you. We have a tendency to adopt strays, befriend the dangerous, and turn enemies into family members. It doesn't always work out, but when it does, the bonds are pretty incredible. Rex, as if sensing the shift in the room's mood, stood up and walked to the center of the classroom. He sat down and simply waited, his massive head turning slowly to look at each student. His tail wagged once, a gesture of greeting rather than aggression. One by one, the students began to relax. There was something oddly reassuring about Rex's calm demeanor. Despite his size and obvious power, he radiated a sense of benevolent patience. Torx cleared his throat. Would anyone else like to pet him? He seems to enjoy it. This question would prove to be the turning point of the entire presentation, though none of them knew it yet. The silence that followed Torx's question was deafening. 36 alien students stared at the massive predator sitting patiently in the center of their classroom, tail swishing gently against the floor. Rex's golden eyes moved from face to face, somehow managing to look both alert and completely non-threatening. Professor Klix 9 felt his academic curiosity warring with every survival instinct his species had developed over millions of years of evolution. The logical part of his brain wanted to observe this unprecedented interspecies interaction. The primitive part was screaming at him to evacuate the building and call security. I suppose, he heard himself saying, that would be educational. Marcus beamed like a proud parent at a school play. Rex loves meeting new people. Just approach slowly and let him sniff you first. That's how dogs get to know someone. Blip, the young Andromedan, surprised everyone by being the first to move. His rainbow slugs had shifted from terror purple to curious orange, reflecting his changing mood. Sniff, he asked, floating closer. What does this accomplish? Dogs experience the world primarily through scent, Marcus explained as Blip hovered uncertainly near Rex's massive head. He's learning everything about you right now. Where you've been, what you've eaten, whether you're nervous or calm. Rex's wet nose twitched as he investigated this floating creature. After a moment, his tail wagged once, and he made a soft, whuffing sound. That means he likes you, Marcus translated. You can pet him now if you want. Just avoid the top of his head until he knows you better. Try behind the ears or under the chin. Blip extended one tentative appendage and touched Rex behind the ear. The dog's eyes half closed in pleasure, and a rumbling sound emerged from deep in his chest. Oh, my stars, Blip whispered in amazement. He is expressing contentment. I can feel the vibrations through his body. The rumbling grew louder as Blip gained confidence and began scratching more enthusiastically. Rex's back leg began to twitch in rhythm with the scratching, which caused several students to jump in alarm. That's just his scratch reflex, Marcus laughed. Hit the right spot and dogs can't help themselves. Totally involuntary. Within minutes, Blip was completely absorbed in finding all of Rex's favorite scratching spots. The massive dog had practically melted into a puddle of contentment, his tongue lolling out as he enjoyed the attention. This is remarkable, Professor Klix muttered, frantically taking notes. The creature appears to enter a state of euphoria from simple tactile stimulation. Yeah, most dogs are pretty touch-oriented, Marcus agreed. Rex probably gets about 2 hours of petting and brushing every day back home. It's bonding time. Zara drifted closer, her crystal moths now humming with curiosity rather than fear. 2 hours daily? That seems like a significant time investment for maintenance of a companion animal. Maintenance? Marcus looked genuinely confused. It's not maintenance, it's quality time. Rex isn't a possession, he's family. You spend time with family because you enjoy their company. This concept seemed to baffle the assembled aliens. Most galactic species viewed pet ownership as a form of benevolent stewardship over lesser creatures. The idea that humans considered their animals as family members was revolutionary. Family? Pip squeaked from his hiding spot. But surely there must be a hierarchy. You are clearly the dominant species. Marcus scratched his chin thoughtfully. Well, Rex definitely knows I'm in charge when it comes to rules and decisions, but in terms of affection and loyalty, we're partners. He takes care of me just as much as I take care of him. How does a creature like this take care of you? Torx asked, though he was now confidently rubbing Rex's massive flank. Surely you do not require protection from other apex predators? Marcus's expression grew distant for a moment. You'd be surprised. Rex has probably saved my life at least 3 times. Once he woke me up when there was a gas leak in my apartment. Another time he refused to let me go down a hiking trail that turned out to have a landslide. And last year. Marcus paused, his voice becoming softer. Last year when I was going through a really tough time mentally, Rex never left my side. Dogs can sense when their humans are struggling. They have this incredible ability to provide comfort exactly when you need it most. The classroom had grown completely quiet. Even the most skeptical students were beginning to understand that this was more than simple pet ownership. This was a genuine emotional bond between 2 very different species. But what do you provide in return? Zara asked gently. Besides food and shelter? Marcus looked down at Rex, who had now rolled onto his back and was gazing up at him with obvious adoration. Purpose, I guess. Rex was bred to be a companion. Making me happy makes him happy. It's like we were designed to complete each other. Professor Klix set down his datapad. Thompson, I must ask, what happens when your species encounters hostile creatures? Surely not every predator can be domesticated in this manner. Marcus's cheerful demeanor shifted slightly. Oh, we definitely don't try to domesticate everything. Humans are pretty good at recognizing the difference between something that can be befriended and something that needs to be avoided or, if necessary, eliminated. The temperature in the room seemed to drop several degrees. Every alien student suddenly remembered that humans, despite their apparent friendliness and bizarre pet preferences, were also apex predators themselves. The thing is, Marcus continued, his voice carrying a subtle edge, humans form incredibly strong bonds with creatures we consider family. And we protect our family very, very seriously. Rex seemed to sense the shift in his human's mood. The massive dog rolled to his feet and moved to stand beside Marcus, his posture changing from relaxed to alert. He wasn't threatening, but suddenly every alien in the room remembered exactly how dangerous he could be if he chose to be. "Let me tell you about the Great Canine War of 2847, Marcus said conversationally, though his eyes had grown hard. A species called the Vorthak decided that Earth would make a nice colony world. They landed expecting to find easy prey. What they found instead were 6 billion humans and about 800 million dogs who had been living together for over 20,000 years. The silence in the classroom was absolute. The Vorthak were excellent warriors individually. Stronger than humans, better natural weapons, superior technology. But they made one critical mistake. Marcus placed his hand on Rex's head, and the dog leaned into the touch. They killed some of our dogs during their initial assault. Zara whispered, "What happened?" Marcus's smile was cold and sharp. "Have you ever seen what happens when you threaten a pack animal's family? Now imagine that instead of one pack, you're facing billions of them. And they have starships, advanced weaponry, and a very, very long memory for grudges. The war lasted 6 months," he continued. It should have lasted 6 years, given the technology gap. But the Vorthak had never faced an enemy that fought with that level of coordinated fury. They'd certainly never faced an enemy that had trained companions who could track them across continents by scent alone. Rex's tail wagged once at the mention of tracking, completely oblivious to the terrified stares of the alien students. "The final battle took place on Vorthak Prime," Marcus said quietly. "Humans and their dogs, side by side, taking their homeworld in less than 72 hours. The Vorthak government surrendered when they realized we weren't just conquering them. We were hunting them." Professor Klix 9 found his voice. What happened to the Vorthak?" Marcus shrugged. "They're still around. Actually, they're pretty good neighbors now. Amazing how quickly attitudes change when you realize your former enemies have trained apex predators who view you as part of their pack. The current Vorthak ambassador to Earth has 3 golden retrievers and sends me Christmas cards." The absurdity of this statement broke the tension somewhat. Several students began to laugh nervously. "The point is," Marcus said, his demeanor returning to its earlier friendliness, "humans don't just domesticate animals. We adopt them into our tribes. We form emotional bonds that transcend species barriers. And once something is part of our pack, we'll go to incredible lengths to protect it." Rex, sensing that story time was over, wandered back toward the center of the room and flopped down with a contented sigh. Within moments, he was surrounded by alien students who had overcome their fear and were eager to experience this strange form of interspecies bonding. "This is unprecedented in galactic history," Professor Klix 9 mused, watching Pip actually climbing onto Rex's back while the massive dog patiently endured the indignity. Most species maintain clear boundaries between themselves and other animals. "Yeah, we're weird that way," Marcus admitted cheerfully. "We tend to pack bond with pretty much anything. There are humans who have emotional attachments to their starships, their weapons, even their favorite coffee mugs. We're an unusually social species." Torx looked up from where he was engaged in what appeared to be a serious conversation with Rex. "Thompson, may I ask you something personal?" "Sure. This creature, Rex, if something happened to you, what would become of him?" Marcus's expression softened. "My sister would take him, and if something happened to her, my parents would step in. We actually have legal documents ensuring Rex would always have a home with people who love him. That's pretty standard for human pet owners." "You have legal documents for a companion animal?" Zara asked incredulously. Of course. Rex is family. You don't abandon family just because it's inconvenient. The implications of this statement rippled through the classroom. A species that created legal frameworks to ensure the welfare of other species, even after their own death, was operating on a completely different ethical level than most galactic civilizations. "Professor," Blip called from where he was teaching Rex to shake hands with tentacles, "I believe I understand now why humans have been so successful in diplomatic relations with previously hostile species." Klix 9 looked up from his notes. "Oh. They do not see other species as fundamentally different from themselves. If they can form emotional bonds with creatures as alien as these dogs, then treating other sapient species as potential family members would be natural for them." Marcus nodded approvingly. "Exactly. That's why we have such a good relationship with most galactic civilizations. Sure, you might look different or have different customs, but at the end of the day, intelligence is intelligence. Everyone wants to be understood and valued." "But what about species that prove hostile?" Torx asked. "Your story about the Vorthak suggests humans are capable of extreme violence when threatened." Marcus's expression grew serious again. "Pack loyalty works both ways. Threaten our pack, and we'll defend it with everything we have. But prove you can be trusted, and we'll adopt you too. The former Vorthak warships that attacked Earth are now crewed by humans and Vorthak working together. Their children grow up playing with human kids and their dogs." "That seems almost too idealistic to be true," Professor Klix 9 said carefully. "Maybe," Marcus admitted, "but it works for us. Rex here doesn't care about species boundaries or evolutionary differences. He cares about who feeds him, who plays with him, and who makes him feel safe and loved. Maybe that's not such a bad approach to galactic relations." As if to emphasize the point, Rex had somehow managed to position himself so that he was being petted by 6 different students simultaneously. His expression of blissful contentment was impossible to misinterpret. "I think," Professor Klix 9 announced, "this has been the most educational xenobiology class in Academy history." The end-of-period chime sounded, but none of the students moved to leave. They were too busy taking turns experiencing what humans called puppy therapy. "Same time next week?" Marcus asked cheerfully as he prepared to leash Rex. "I could bring my cat next time, if you want to see another example of human-pet bonding." The collective shudder that ran through the classroom was immediate and visceral. "Perhaps," Professor Klix 9 said diplomatically. "We should process this lesson first before introducing additional apex predators to the curriculum." Marcus laughed. "Rex isn't an apex predator, Professor. He's just a very large, very friendly dog who happens to have impressive teeth." As they prepared to leave, Rex made the rounds one final time, accepting farewell pets and ear scratches from his new alien friends. His tail wagged continuously, and his expression remained one of perfect contentment. "Thompson," Professor Klix 9 called as they reached the door. "Thank you for this illuminating presentation." Marcus grinned. "Any time, Professor. Come on, Rex, let's go home." As the door closed behind them, the classroom remained silent for several long moments. Finally, Zara spoke what everyone was thinking. "I believe we have significantly underestimated human civilization." Professor Klix 9 nodded slowly. "Indeed. A species that can turn apex predators into loving companions and former enemies into allies is not to be taken lightly." "Should we be concerned?" Pip asked nervously. "Concerned?" Torx rumbled thoughtfully. "No, I do not think so. But we should definitely be respectful. Any species capable of that level of pack loyalty could be either our greatest allies or our most dangerous enemies." "And based on today's demonstration," Professor Klix 9 concluded, "the choice of which appears to be entirely up to us." Outside in the hallway, Marcus's voice could be heard praising Rex for being such a good boy and promising extra treats for his excellent behavior. The sound of Rex's happy panting and the click of his claws on the corridor floor gradually faded into the distance, leaving behind a classroom full of alien students who would never again underestimate the power of an interspecies bond. or the species strange enough to form them with apex predators they called family.